Today I will be discussing what I have christened or titled, Why I Will Not Go to Tribunal. That is the heading. And the subheading is Inec and Judiciary, the biggest threat to democracy in Nigeria. Inec and Judiciary, the biggest threat to democracy in Nigeria. Fellow pressmen, in all thriving democracies around the world, the election management body like Inec and the judiciary are its sustaining pillars. The constitutional duty of Inec is to conduct periodic, free, fair and credible elections and declare the popular will of the people as expressed through the ballots, but at moments, election results are not written and prepared before election day. Sorry, I take that again. The constitutional duty of Inec is to conduct periodic, free, fair and credible elections and declare popular will of the people as expressed through the ballot, but at the moment, election results are now written and prepared before election day under Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. The judiciary is supposed to be the last line of defense of democracy and the rule of law. But the tragedy today is that the judiciary over the years have not lived up to the expectation fully on matters of electoral justice. Worse still, it has now been captured by APC and it's now the weakest link for the subversion of democracy in Nigeria. What a disgrace and shame to the largest black race of the world. A democracy without a rule of law and a courageous judiciary has in it an inner virus that will lead to its destruction. The common saying that judiciary is the last hope of aggrieved citizens is now an empty slogan, because the judiciary is truly now the lost hope of the people of Nigeria. That is why I, Dino Melaye, will not dignify a captured judiciary that is now a department of APC by filing a petition over Kogi State governorship elections that majority of the results were pre-written before the election day by INEC officials. Under the most corrupt chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the most pernicious, odious vermin that ever presided over election management body in Nigeria. I repeat, Mahmoud Yakubu is the most pernicious, odious vermin that ever presided over the election management body in Nigeria, INEC. Why should any responsible Nigerian go to the tribunal when APC has captured the judiciary and their members, that's APC members, openly boast at rallies about their control of a corrupt judiciary of cash and carry? Why should other political parties and Nigerians participate in future elections with the conclusion of grip and total control of INEC through the appointment of APC card-carrying members as commissioners into INEC, who will recruit adult staff, APC supporters, as pooled officials? All recognized individuals of proven integrity from south and northern parts of this country, applauded by Nigerians for their commitment to credible elections as commissioners, have all been eased out of INEC. The way the so-called State Independent Electoral Commission, SIEC, is constituted by governors with party members and supporters is what is happening now. So that means what is happening in SIEC is exactly what is now happening with INEC at the national level. It's constituted by governors with party members and supporters is what is being replicated by this administration with INEC at the federal level. No more elections like local governments, but pure writing of results before elections as done in Kogi and Imo states. A typical example is what I will show you now. This is certified true copies. So when SDP was shouting all over the air that they need INEC and they need the tribunal to give them order for INEC to release documents to them, we got these documents last week. And they are certified true copies by INEC. This is the certified true copy of the Kogi State election on the 11th of November. This is certified true copies of the presidential election in February. What I want to do here is that we have certified true copies of all the documents, including the registered the voters register, all certified by INEC, and these documents are available with us. I want to say that voters registration ended in November last year, 2022. That means from November last year, there is no voter registration. This is certified true copy from INEC of the results of the presidential and National Assembly elections in February this year. As at that time, number of registered voters on this certified true copies showed that in Adabi local government, 114,046 registered voters. Showed that in Ajakuta local government, 84,614. Showed that in Okene local government, 140,452. That's the registered voters as at February, as imputed on this certified true copy of INEC results for the February election. But in the certified true copy for the November election, you will note that registration of voters stopped in November 2022. So what we were given in February 2023 on these certified true INEC documents is what I read. But on the same INEC certified results of the 2023 November 11 governorship election, the number changed when voters registration already ended last year. On the first of these documents now, for the November 11th election, you remember I said it was 114,046 for Adavi, but in this document is now 114,663 inflated. In Ajakuta local government, for example, in February, voter registration was 84,614, while in the November election is 96,504, an increase of over 8,000. In Okene local government, the same thing. In Okene local government, it was 140,452 in February. But in November election, Okene was inflated to 151,242. An inflated number of 110,987. And this was done in 17 local governments. So the question is, if voters registration ended November last year and the February results showed the number of registered voters as of February this year, where did the additional figures inflated in November came from? After all, there's been no voters registration since November last year. Voter registration is a ceremonial thing that parties take very seriously, politicians take very seriously. So whenever it is announced, we normally mobilize our people to go out and participate in registration. The last time such exercise took place was in November 2022. But because they have increased or allocated votes that were beyond the registered voters. So they had to up the registered voters up to justify. If not, the votes will be more than registered voters. That is the kind of corruption, fraud that INEC did. And these are certified true copies of documents from INEC showing disparity between February and November. Meanwhile, there is no voters registration. What future do we have of democracy when the judiciary is captured during the bidding of APC, as the world is seeing happening across Nigeria, wherein judiciary is now used to overturn the people's verdict for APC in Kano, Nasarawa, Plateau, Zamfara, and many more states in the days ahead. The capture of judiciary signals citizens' possible resort to self-help, and that is dangerous for our society. That is how democracy dies, when political elites repudiate or reject the norms and values on which democracy is practiced, and the judiciary is captured and unable to do electoral justice. The Presidential Election Tribunal judgment was written in partisan stationery. The CTC of Kano gubernatorial appeal significantly differed in the whole section from verbal judgment delivered by the Court of Appeal. The 3 paragraphs of the judgment declared to be clerical errors by the Court of Appeal, surprisingly and curiously, do not have spellings error. Does it mean that clerical error do not have meaning again? Because if you say something is a clerical error, and in the 3 paragraphs, no single spelling error, as the definition for clerical errors changed, we all know that it is easier to recite after taught judgments than to rewrite well-considered written judgments. And this is actually a big shame. You can see that Labour Party have no judgments. The Labour Party cried out yesterday that they were not given any judgment. They asked for judgment, and they said the judgment of the PDP will suffice. And it is laughable that in my elementary knowledge of law as a law student or a graduate of law, I know that grounds, when you make your grounds for submissions or issues that you raise in your submissions are questions, and we're taught in law that those questions for determination must be answered by the courts. But because the courts cannot in their good consciences, or the judges or justices cannot in their good consciences answer those questions raised by Labour, that is why there's no judgment. What are the issues raised? One of those issues is, how did the picture of a lady appear on the server of INEC instead of posting result sheets? You posted picture. It's a question for determination, and that question has not been answered. And it is a norm, it is a practice, a convention, that questions for determinations, issues raised, must be answered. But because they don't want to answer it, and they know what the implication of answering it, there is no judgment for Labour Party. We all know that Labour Party is a different party in that matter. PDP is a different party. And the courts throughout the sitting at the Supreme Court did not consolidate the cases of PDP and Labour Party. And where these cases were not consolidated, how can they have the same judgment? That is one of the fundamental reasons why I would say I have lost complete confidence in the judiciary. We can say that our country and democracy is at its most vulnerable point of decay as a result of institutional capture. Today, nowhere to turn to by citizens for sanity. Judiciary has become an extended section of a political party, doing its bidding and delivering predetermined judgments. The fingers of providence will continue to write its verdicts on the walls of our judiciary as the biggest threat to the survival of democracy in Nigeria. We are at terrible situations that led St. Augustine to declare that a country is nothing but a band of rogues without the rule of law. The judiciary has lent itself to APC capture, and it has become the instrument of partisanship. Inec and Judiciary in particular have betrayed Nigerians and dashed their hopes and aspirations of democratic ideals through judicial sabotage. We can all now see what the scholar Montesquieu meant when he warned that there is no greater tyranny than a tyranny that is perpetrated under the shield of the law in the name of justice. Conclusion. Fellow Nigerians and gentlemen of the press, in the light of the foregoing, I, Senator Dino Melaye, have decided in good conscience not to submit myself to the judiciary that has become an instrument of political tyranny. Just as Pa Awolowo declared after the 1993 rigged elections, when asked why he refused to go to the tribunal, our sage, Obafemi Awolowo, said that he will not because the judiciary is corrupt and will not do justice. I will not go to court because justice has been murdered by the judiciary in Nigeria. I repeat, I will not go to court because justice has been murdered by the judiciary in Nigeria. Finally, may I use the opportunity to call on all opposition parties in Nigeria to forthwith boycott all future elections unless and until the current INEC constituted by APC members is dissolved and a new set of non-partisan chairman and commissioners are appointed into INEC. Further participation by opposition parties in future pre-written election results. Further participation by opposition parties in future pre-written election results under a morally and ethically challenged Professor Mahmood Yakubu Electoral Commission amounts to giving legitimacy and credence to the continued rape of democracy in Nigeria. I hereby call on all political parties to boycott future elections in this country until Mahmood Yakubu and the corrupt commissioners of INEC are completely dissolved and a new credible INEC constituted. That is when we can have democracy. If we fail to do that, participation by political parties will mean legitimizing, endorsing, and promoting the illegality that is ongoing. So I call on all political parties to boycott future elections and allow them to run a one-party state, because our non-participation will definitely will definitely deny them the legitimacy they need to carry on. So we call on the whole world, we call on international communities, we call on NGOs, CBOs, Nigerian Bar Associations, we call on the Nigerian Medical Association and the Nigerian Labour Congress to save Nigeria and save democracy. Because because INEC and the judiciary, they have murdered democracy in this country. They have become appendages of APC, and results are written even before elections. The National Assembly will have to stop keeping silent in this very satanic issue. The battle to salvage our country from these economic cankerworms and financial scavengers is a battle of no retreat, no surrender. We will continue to speak, we will continue to protect our democracy by asking for the right thing to be done. We call on Mahmood Yakubu to either voluntarily resign or INEC be dissolved in the light of the foregoing, so that credible Nigerians will take over INEC and the judiciary must become born again before Nigerians begin to resolve into self-help. A word is enough for the wise. I'll take questions if there are.